How are you?
Wow, look at all these people out here. This is amazing. Welcome. My name is Daniel Heim, and I am the Director of Orchestras here at Cleveland Heights High School. I'm proud to be here in my 14th year. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, but boy, done a lot of really cool stuff here in the meantime. So we welcome you here to this Centennial celebration of our instrumental music department. You're going to hear a lot about it tonight from a very passionate, excited person who knows a lot about this community and cares a lot about this community. Susie Kaiser is a public education. Yeah, give it up to Susie. Susie is a very passionate advocate and cheerleader for our schools. She's made it her home since 1979. She founded and directed Reaching Heights, which is a huge pillar of our community and a massive support to the schools. And she did that for 17 years. During that time, she also oversaw the development of Reaching Musical Heights, and particularly of note, the Reaching Heights Summer Camp for instrumentalists that happens every summer. And it's just a tremendous, tremendous camp. I have been lucky enough to have that put in my lap ever since I came here. It's been a joy to do it all these years. I'm looking forward to the next one. I wish I could say we had done 14 of them, but there was that little COVID thing that happened in between. But we're not going to focus on that tonight. That camp she founded also with Tamar Gray and Betsy Nealon, two really amazing music educators. But to know Susie is to know someone pretty phenomenal. She has a grit and an energy and not just a can-do attitude, but a will-do attitude. Like, she doesn't say, I can do that, she says, I'm gonna do that. Because when she cares about it and when it matters to her and the community, then she goes in all in. And it's really, really amazing to work with her. She is really relentless about making sure that this camp comes off every year, and it's just amazing. So can you please welcome to the lectern for tonight, Susie Kaiser as our MC.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan. Thank you all for being here to celebrate 100 years and counting of the instrumental music program. I know you are here to enjoy the music, the evidence of the continuing strength of this program, but I have the fun responsibility of giving you some history about the development of the tradition of excellence we have come to expect, acknowledge the people who made it possible, and recognize the value of music to our lives. I believe Tijuana Chambers captured the key reason music is in the high school curriculum when she wrote in the 1998 Cauldron, "Music is the substance that makes the world go round." It is also a great way to learn the value of sustained effort and teamwork, cooperation, and creativity. For some people, it launches careers. For others, it simply makes their lives fuller. This program has contributed to the lives of our students, the identity of our community, the reputation of our school district, and to the quality of life in our region. I found much of the history of the program in 80 years of high school yearbooks. Marion Morton's History of Cleveland Heights and the Women's Civic Club history from the 1960s. There's so much more I'd like to know. The last 40 years of the music program, the first 40 years of the music program, established the framework, reputation, and traditions that define the Heights High Instrumental Music Program today. As our community and school district evolved, so did our music program. The evolution reflects changes in popular culture, education philosophy, student needs, and American history. The core of the music program is the three long-standing performing groups, the band, orchestra, and jazz band, that will perform here tonight. They emerged one at a time between 1920 and 1960. In each case, the group started as a club and then became an official course taught by a music educator. Instrumental music grew from 4 students supervised after school once a week by a science teacher to at least 6 ensembles supervised by 2 musical experts working throughout the day and beyond. This is the period, that first 40 years, when expectations for participation and standards for quality took root. High school musicians attend music class, they practice, they perform for the public, they compete, and they travel. Some march, and some demonstrate their advanced skills as soloists. All of those traditions define what we do now. Let me start at the beginning. In 1901, when the 1,500 residents of Cleveland Heights separated from the East Cleveland Township and incorporated as an independent village, becoming Cleveland's second suburb. The Cleveland Heights School District was formed the same year. And for the next 50 years, as one account put it, the school board fought a running battle to finance and build and staff schools fast enough to keep up with its growing population. In 1942, University Heights became part of the school district, adding some more people to the enrollment. The population of Cleveland Heights peaked in 1960 with more than 61,000 residents. And in 1966, as the baby boom passed through to high school, our school district had 20,000 students in 18 schools. Heights High enrolled more than 3,400 students, and the graduating class that year had 850 students. Today, district enrollment is around a quarter of that, and the high school enrollment is closer to 1,500 students. But no matter the size of the school, music remains essential. The Heights School District built its first new building on the current site of Boulevard Elementary School. And starting in 1904, it served elementary and high school kids. In 1907, 5 students made up the first graduating class from high school in Cleveland Heights. In 1914, the district opened a bigger building just south of the Lee Road School as a junior high and high school for 500 students from grades 7 through 12. Within a year, an addition was needed to house up to 1,500 students. By 1926, it had become Roosevelt Junior High, and high school students, that's 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, relocated to this building. It wasn't until 1985 that 9th graders in our district were considered high school students. From the start, the district had a progressive education agenda, encouraging students to be able to learn from projects and solve problems. Year by year, new subjects were added to the curriculum. In 1903, the district added music and hired Miss Ida Bloom, a graduate of Oberlin Conservatory of Music. It took another 17 years, however, for instrumental music to make it into the classroom. It appears we have students to thank for launching instrumental music. According to the 1922 Cauldron, in October of 1920, 3 timorous adventurers entered Mr. Burt's office, where they asked, "Can we have an orchestra?" The new principal was positive and promised, "Prove yourselves to be earnest, and credits will be given for orchestra work." The 1922 yearbook proclaims the junior high school orchestra was launched with the senior one in the school year of 1920-21. 18-member orchestra with string and wind instruments began to meet after school, directed by Mr. Schweiker, a science teacher. The Alumni Association reports that the orchestra performed its very first concert in the fall of the 1921-22 school year. For the next 3 years, the faculty advisor for this music club was Mr. Ellis Downey, a mathematics and biology teacher. Mr. Burt kept his promise. In February of 1926, the 26-member orchestra changed from an after-school club to an in-school course, as did the Glee Club. Mr. Percy was in charge of vocal and instrumental music. The orchestra played patriotic music, performed for their fellow students, and at graduation. By the way, that graduating class founded the Heights High Alumni Association. The next fall, on September 8th, 1926, the first group of high school students walked through the doors of this school and were greeted by an orchestra performing probably on this stage. They also performed on the radio and in the community for civic groups. Music options grew that year with the formation of the Banjo Club. 2 years later, the program took another step forward when interest in instrumental music had grown to such a level that they needed to divide the orchestra into a band and an orchestra. Mr. Ernest Bodenweber, the junior high music teacher, spent 2 days a week at Heights High working with the marching band and concert band. During the 29-30 school year, the Heights High had its first full-time instrumental music teacher, Mark Hinsley. The city had grown to be home to more than 50,000 residents, more than live here today. As the IMD blossomed, the stock market crashed, igniting the Great Depression. Nonetheless, in 1930, the band got new uniforms. Of course, it was a new group, it needed to march in something. In 1932, the school board provided Depression lunches to its hungry students, and teachers took a 10% pay cut. 2 years later, the teachers kept their jobs, but for the next 10 years worked for 50% of the pay they had previously received. 1932 is also the year that BOPO began. Parents provided the extra hands needed to manage uniforms, staff concerts, plan and chaperone travel, and to raise funds to support the added expenses associated with the music curriculum. BOPO has been here ever since, and we have BOPO to thank for sponsoring this celebration. So let's applaud parents. The instrumental music program came to maturity in the 1930s, a kind of golden age, when it earned its enviable reputation for excellence, as ensembles participated in music contests at state and national levels, and frequently came away with excellent ratings or as the winners. Both band and orchestra grew in numbers and reputation. The 1939 marching band had 120 musicians and the orchestra had 90. By this time, band and orchestra each had multiple ensembles. Financial hardship did not stop Heights students in this upper middle class community from participating in the state band contest in 1931, the national band contest at the Chicago World's Fair in 1933, or beginning a new band tradition, a military ball for band members only. Performing was highly rewarding to students then, as it is now. A student entry in the 1937 yearbook describes, quote, "the intoxicating joy of successful performance, the thrill of working together as a group toward the common purpose of performing fine music in an artistic way." I don't know when our tradition of senior soloists began, but in 1938, senior Eunice Potus performed a piano solo with the orchestra. One of our most heralded alums, she went on to solo more than 500 times with the Cleveland Orchestra. Her classmate and future husband, Robert Weisskopf, debuted as the student conductor. He went on to found and direct the Suburban Symphony. Just a few of our stellar people from that era. In 1940, Cleveland Heights became the 11th largest city in Ohio with a population of 55,000 people. When World War II started the next year, it transformed life for everyone, including students at Heights High. They helped sell war bonds, collect aluminum to recycle, and had a club to generate patriotism. The 1944 yearbook is dedicated to the Heights alums who died in the war. The November 25, 1945 band concert was hailed as the first peacetime recital in 4 years. During the football season in 1946, the marching band paid tribute to the military by depicting the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima. From 1948 well into the 1960s, every band concert ended with a performance of the Stars and Stripes, with the appearance of a huge flag coming down from the fly. In 1945, a new ensemble arrived on the Heights scene, the Hi-Hats, a dance band. The woodworking class made the music stands for this new 18-piece jazz orchestra. Jazz was the most popular music in the world at the time, and dancing to live music was also popular. Cleveland had more than 150 venues where people could dance to live jazz bands. Now Heights High had its own dance band to go along with the marching band and concert band. Students at the time appreciated their opportunities. The yearbook reports, "We are grateful for the fact that our school encourages music and has such organizations as the Heights Symphony Orchestra." In 1948, the Heights Band was the first high school band in the nation to perform on the steps of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., making it, as students claimed, the most famous high school band in the country. The jazz band reappeared in 1952 as the Hi-Hats Swing Band, and then shows up intermittently as the jazz band, dance band, and stage band. But in 1957, this extracurricular activity became a 4-credit course and a permanent fixture in the IMD. By then, television had started to displace live entertainment and dancing, and the big band era began to fade, but not at Heights High. Interest in jazz has remained strong. In 1960, a new jazz appreciation club appeared. When the Tri-C Jazz Fest started in the 1980s, Heights students were regular participants. As you will see when we adjourn to the cafeteria later this evening, jazz is here in full force. In 1950, a new instrumental music director took the reins at Heights High, and the yearbook notes, "The equally prominent Heights Band and Orchestra are reaching new heights of performance under the baton of their new music director, Mr. Farinacci." The well-established program, standards, and excitement were a given. In 1960, the city population peaked at more than 61,000 people. This was another important turning point in our music program. The district hired 2 people to teach instrumental music, the staffing level that is in place today. Let me jump forward now to 2020. When COVID struck, our schools closed and we all retreated to the safety of our homes. Through the magic of technology, our students and staff tried valiantly to preserve learning from afar. If performance is integral to instrumental music, what do you do when everyone's at home? Orchestra director Dan Heim and his team improvised. They created a virtual orchestra. Each member of the ensemble recorded themselves performing their parts from home, and he was able to combine them into a single orchestra. The audience could then tune in via computer and enjoy the concert. A 1951 student observed, "Music wakes the soul and lifts it high." That's exactly what happened to anyone who had the good fortune of attending this virtual concert when our spirits really needed lifting and awakening. And I know tonight you will have the very same experience. So now let's have the music. Thankfully, Mr. Heim and the orchestra and our bands are here in person, and so are we. So welcome the orchestra.
I have the best job. These kids are fantastic. Let's give it up for them one more time. So I can fish around by my notes here. Actually, I think I was going to give this to someone. Mr. Ferris, thank you so much. All right, so that was the Eine kleine Nachtmusik by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. A late work of his, definitely in the later portion of his career, and just a wonderful piece for these kids to really work on excellent disciplined musicianship on. And so what a pleasure. I've never actually done this with the high school orchestra here, so that was the first time. Very fun for me to do that with them too. So you don't turn 100 every day, right? Or 101, since we didn't get to do this last year. Or as my son likes to say, hey Dad, how's it feel to be half as old as your orchestras? Yeah, okay, so anyway, we'll move on from that. But one of the things that for me has been very important, and it's sort of something I haven't talked about much in concerts, but I've always felt a very strong commitment to music education in public schools. Primarily because I started music education in public schools. I did not start with private lessons when I was 4 or 5 years old. I started with an elementary school teacher when I was in 3rd grade. And so that has always meant something really special to me, that my first exposure to it was not because someone took me to private lessons, but because I got that opportunity through my public schools where I was growing up. And so, yes. So, from the influences of my very first strings teacher when I was in elementary school all the way to my high school choral director, who could be quite demanding. She was so demanding that I just loved being in her class. And then when it came time for there to be a new orchestra director and she took over the position, I said, okay, now I'm going to go to the orchestra too, because I was not doing orchestra. I was in choir in high school. I was not doing orchestra. Yeah, that's right, singers. Let's give it up for singers, right? So, you know, those were important people to me, and it's their passion that brought me to this job. And it feels like it was a very unexpected landing here at Cleveland Heights High School, because I actually was in a job that I loved the year before, but then I got let go because they were just letting teachers go. So anyway, it's a good thing I came here. It's a great thing because I really love my job here. I want to thank some really important people here. As they say, teamwork makes the dream work, and this team with Dr. Nick Marzola and Mr. Stuart Ferris, and our student teacher this year, Ms. Ruth Cavano, it's really quite a team. So I want to say thank you to all of them. And of course, as we know from the history, we would be nothing without BOPO, so thank you to BOPO. Thank you to Eve and Mike, our co-presidents. Thank you to all our officers. Thank you to all of our past officers. If you have been an officer in BOPO, would you please stand? Please stand and be recognized. That's right. Give it up for all these people who have given so much of their time and love to this program. So that performance style that we did of Eine Kleine, it actually started last year when we were doing a project with the Cavani Quartet, and we played the finale of one of Beethoven's Rip-Roarin' string quartets together with them. It was a lot of fun. So we just kind of continued doing this chamber music thing, and I think it worked pretty well. But now we're bringing out on stage a new group, one that is really officially founded for the first time this year. I'm going to invite out onto the stage the Philharmonic Strings. So Philharmonic Strings, please come on out. This
intermediate level orchestra is something that I wanted for a very long time. In fact, when I first came to Heights, I set that as my 10-year goal. I got pretty close. We actually beta tested it last year, but this is the official year that we have it. So I'm really excited to have this group, because the fact that we can have this group that is playing more advanced stuff than they were before means that they get to play a piece like you're about to hear. This Lullaby by William Hofelt is a really wonderful lyrical piece. Those of you who heard at the concert last week know what a beautiful piece of music is. Those who haven't, we hope you enjoy it. Lullaby by William Hofelt. No one was hurt. Okay, so we are going to transition here right now, and this is another time for Susie Kaiser to tell you a little bit more about our history. So Susie's going to come up on stage. We're going to quietly move off stage.
Don't worry, this one's a lot shorter. Aren't you glad that they've been around for 100 years? So, neither time nor music stands still at Heights High. While the large performing groups remain the centerpiece of the program, our creative music educators keep building on the tradition of excellence. They choose music and offer classes that reflect student interests or taste. They adapt to new challenges, and they draw on a wide range of community resources to create new opportunities. For example, in the 1960s, Heights had a folk music club and a modern jazz club. In the 1990s, African American music, AP music theory, and drum circle were new offerings. Brett Baker touched the program by adding lab band and making guitar a credit course, something Dan Heim continues today. While marching band created excitement at football games, and was often the reason people came to those games, in 1985, students started a pep band to bring energy and excitement to basketball. Dr. Fred Mayer, who came in, I think, 1992, was credited by one author as turning the IMD on its head when he initiated a chamber music program that has become standard fare at Heights High. He also led the fundraising effort to replace the harp that the, quote, mothers of the band had purchased in 1939. Performance is fundamental to instrumental music. In 2003, Reaching Heights, working in partnership with all the school district music teachers, produced a concert at Severance Hall, exposing our community to all of our students and all of our students to Severance Hall. They got the message, or we wanted to deliver the message, that you are a part of a proud tradition and you belong in a world-class venue. The high school musicians stole the show. The concert has been repeated 3 more times. There's nothing like intensive practice and individual instruction to help musicians develop their skills and confidence. So in 2004, Fred Mayer taught me and elementary teachers Tamar and Betsy Nalon how to run an orchestra camp. So we decided to do it. In the summer of 2005, we launched the Heights Summer Music Camp in partnership with Donna Dane, who was the brand new orchestra director at Heights High. And since then, we've had the wonderful continuing partnership with with the orchestra director from Heights being the music director for the camp, making it a tight link and partnership in the constant support of the students on our district. Many of the musicians performing here tonight have been campers, and they've been staff. It's delightful that we hire our high school students to be the mentor teachers at camp, and most all of the faculty at our music camp are alumni of the program. And the partnership with Dan, as you know, as you would expect, has been fantastic. He frequently comes dressed as a piece of pizza to camp. Over the last 100 years, 28 different music educators have guided the IMD. I'm happy to introduce to you now our most recent addition, Dr. Nicholas Marzola, Director of Bands.
That was Alfred Reed's magnificent work, El Camino Real. It's the second time we've played it this year. As you can tell, it's a pretty hard little barn burner that goes on there. A nice little middle section. Those musicians in the audience, it goes through 8/8, 7/8, 5/8, 6/8, all in the midst of the span of that. And the kids did a good job learning that, so we decided to play it twice for you this year. And now we are going to play a piece actually we started last year. We played last year, and the kids loved it so much. And I have a lot of turnover from last year this year. We decided to put it together. And amazingly, with the new students, we put together in about 6 rehearsals or so with all the things we're doing. But this is one of our seminal band works. Earlier in the year, if you saw our fall concert, we played the first suite by Gustav Holst. This is his second suite in F. right, if you bear with us, we're going to have a brief staging pause. So anybody out in the audience, like students, whatever, start making your way backstage to come on for our mass finale. So start moving back to the hallway backstage. Nope, not on. Back through the hallway, through the hallway, through the hallway. Go back and around, yeah. And we'll bring on strings that alumni wins. So those that were here earlier, you know where to go. But otherwise, please bear with us. It'll probably take just a couple of minutes to get moved in. We'll have our grand finale.
It's up to you. Just keep it.
In 1995, thanks to the hard work of Ellen Worthington, my colleague at Reaching Heights, we organized a concert at Kane Park featuring 80 graduates of the Heights High Music Instrumental Program and I think 100 vocalists, people whose careers involved music. They came from across the country to perform with their fellow Heights alums. People who never had come to a reunion came to a music reunion. Those events, we repeated this in 1998, featuring jazz musicians. Those events were my introduction to the IMD's profound influence on students and the amazing loyalty it engendered in its graduates. The concerts launched the Reaching Heights role as a resource for the music program. For many students, we know music is what keeps them coming to school. The alumni of our program demonstrate the kind of impact it can have on careers and on communities. Our tradition has produced generations of musicians who make their livelihood performing as church musicians in symphony orchestras or as touring artists. Go to the musical heaven of New York City or Atlanta or Berlin or LA or Hawaii or anywhere in between, and you will find graduates of this program who will tell you it was this place that solidified their aspirations as musicians. As we celebrate the impact of music on our humanity and the value of music education to our students and community, I'd like to recognize some of the lasting impact a musical start in our school district has had on the local arts scene. First, our music program has affected music education across the region at the K through 12 conservatory and college level. What's special to me is that at least 4 graduates have became instrumental music teachers in our district. Pam Adamson, her sister Janet Schoon, Sharon Beal, and most recently, this year, Kimmerin Carter. It's something to be proud of. In 1953, Heights concertmaster Richard Bogomoni, the 1953 Heights concertmaster Richard Bogomoni, who became a businessman after leaving Heights, also led the Musical Arts Society. For years, that's the parent organization for the Cleveland Orchestra. Ken Ehrlich is a TV producer who for decades produced the Grammy Awards. Diana Cohen and her brother joined with their father, Franklin Cohen, to found Chamberfest. Kevin Richards founded Roots of American Music and the Fairmont School of Music. And Tom Ianni operates Academy Music, another music teaching venue, and of course where most of us got our instruments for our kids. Jazz pianist Joe Hunter is a longtime piano player for the Musical Theater Project and a faculty member of the Tri-C Jazz program. The Cleveland Jazz Orchestra is populated with alums like Joe Miller and Nathan Paul Davis and former music teachers Paul Hungerford and Eric Richmond. Local musicians perform with the Cleveland Pops, and Mr. Heim and Laura Schuster perform with the Blue Water Chamber Orchestra. George Blake and Eve McPherson are both ethnomusicologists and our college faculty, and both of them research music in Cleveland. Jules Belkin, a 1949 Heights grad, and his brother Mike created Belkin Productions, a major music promotion firm that brought rock and roll bands to venues everywhere. So it's fitting that tonight's celebration should include alumni. Many may be in the audience enjoying this music, and we are grateful for the people who live close enough and are ready to perform what my son describes the hallowed ground, the Heights High stage. While Mr. Bergantino had planned to be the guest conductor for this great ensemble, alas, COVID strikes again. So our IMD conductors will share the duties. And it'll take a minute for lots of people to get up here, so let's welcome them. That was one rehearsal. feature of the IMD is touring. Starting in the 1940s, planned trips during spring break became an essential part of the band and orchestra curriculum. Chicago, Toronto, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, D.C., and New York have been popular destinations. But our musicians have gone to Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, and Iowa. They like to see the world. During a pre-pandemic tour to Philadelphia, Jason Kelsey, our famous football alum, played with our jazz band. Next month, our kids will get back on the road after this fun part of being a Heights musician was suspended because of COVID. So at this time, Tony Thayer from BOPO has a few things to say about the tour.
Thanks, Susie, and thank you to everybody for being here. It's amazing to see everybody in the audience and on stage. My family has been involved with instrumental music at Heights for 11 years. My own alum from the instrumental music department is in Costa Rica right now. Otherwise, I'm quite sure they would be on this stage. Zelda was a concertmaster in the symphony and had a senior solo remotely during COVID. And continues to play violin for pleasure in college. And my younger child, Orson, is playing bass right now and also plays drums in the jazz band, so you'll see him later. And he is actually going to go to college next year to study jazz drumming, and he got his start with that here at Heights High, and I am so thankful for everything that instrumental music at Heights has given us. And as my last hurrah as a BOPO parent, I have organized the tour this year. The last time musicians from Heights toured out of state was in 2019, when the current seniors on stage were in 8th grade. So this is the first time in their high school career that they have had the opportunity to tour. They're going to Chicago. We're going to Chicago. We're taking the symphonic winds and the string symphony to Chicago. 61 students, 3 teachers, and 6 parent chaperones will be going in 3 weeks, I think. Soon, it's very soon. And they will have the opportunity to do an exchange performance at a high school in Western Ohio. We're going to go see the Chicago Symphony. We're going to have master classes at Vandercook College of Music. And then we're going to do some other wonderful Chicago-y things like take a river cruise and go to Shedd Aquarium and have deep dish pizza, I'm sure. And touring for these students is important, not just because it's a fun thing to do, because it's an opportunity for them to take their music into the world and to learn from musicians in another place and see context to what they're doing here in this school. And touring is not cheap. BOPO has traditionally subsidized the tour. For the current tour and the last tour, BOPO has subsidized approximately 1/3 of the cost of the tour. And touring has gotten more expensive since COVID. We raised the bulk of the money that BOPO put towards this year's tour at a big fundraiser at Nighttown in the spring of 2020. It's one of the very last things many of us did before the COVID shutdown happened. And we raised many thousands of dollars. And finally, we're able to use them and contribute a little bit more. So BOPO made it possible for all of the eligible students to go, regardless of what their families were able to pay. We subsidized 1/3 of the cost for all students and then made scholarships available for everyone else so that no student had to stay home. And we are very committed to that now and into the future, that all of our student musicians that are eligible have these opportunities. This year's tour cost approximately $60,000. So BOPO paid for nearly 1/3 of that. And we would like to be able to send musicians on tour again in another 2 years. However, we're a little bit behind on our fundraising. So thank you to everybody who has bought raffle tickets, who have made contributions throughout the year. And as we have alums and community members here in the house and on stage, I just wanted to make a special appeal that if any of you would feel moved to help support the next round of student tours for Heights High, please consider making a contribution to BOPO. Tonight or in the future. There is a QR code out on the BOPO table that you can use to make a contribution right away, or you can go to the website heightsbopo.org and make a contribution there, or stop any of the BOPO people that you see around in the reception when we're listening to jazz music later, and talk to us about it, and we would be happy to connect you. And thank you very much. And without further ado,
before we play our last two pieces, I promise they are super short, and I will be super short. But first, I want to thank a few people we haven't yet thanked. First off, definitely we want to give a shout out and a thank you to BOPO for all of the help that they do in supporting our students, putting this together, tour, all those things. So we give a big hand to everybody in BOPO as well as all of the officers especially. Thank you. We also want to thank Superintendent Kirby, Toya Robinson for their help at the Board of Education for all the things they do to provide support, Dr. McKinney and Mr. Smith, our head principal and our direct principal over the arts, as well as the amazing security, custodial, and support staff here at the high school. But a huge shout out to one of the best, I think, in the business, especially at the high school level, to Mr. Newman and his crew. They're always one of the best. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And my public apologies to Keith. I did not tell him I wanted to move equipment in between, and apparently it was way louder than I knew it was going to be, so my bad. Because we have a jazz band set after this, so please join us in the reception after we play our last two pieces. We will probably not play all the tunes we were going to because we're running a little later than I expected. That's okay, but we'll have some rockin' tunes for you and some soloing and some folks joining us outside of the current student population, so you don't want to miss that for sure. One last thing, you probably noticed Mr. Bergantino's name and bio in the program. Unfortunately, Bob came down quite ill right before our performance, so I did want to shout out Bob. I know he's feeling a little sorry he can't be here. We were going to have him, but we are carrying on in spirit, and if you know Bob or send him a message or send some thoughts his way, he's okay, but he's just feeling a little ill, so if Mr. Bergantino, I think would appreciate that, and we definitely send our thoughts to him. All right, so now for our official school songs arranged by the wonderful Mr. Bain. We have our fight song, Heights Victory, and then we will follow it with our alma mater. And if you are so inclined, it is in, I think, about the third or fourth page of your program. Feel free to sing along if you know it. All right. Also, can we give one big round of applause and a thank you to Susie Kaiser, our MC for tonight, volunteer work. Thank you so much, Susie. All right, about 10 minutes, hopefully less, we will be in jazz band formation and let's rock out the house. So come, go eat, enjoy. Thank you very much.